Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, a new Trump administration policy on migrant children faces immediate backlash.
The rule will restore integrity to our immigration system and eliminate the major pull factor fueling the crisis.
A live report on how the government plans to detain undocumented families. Plus, San Diego County's new school protection and evacuation plan, what it means for the safety of your children. And from serving their country to serving the government with a lawsuit. Local vets who say the military has turned its back on them. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening. It's Wednesday, August 21st. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. New tonight, the Trump administration moves to strike down an agreement that limits how long migrant children can be detained. Homeland Security has announced a plan to hold undocumented families indefinitely. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler is live in El Cajon with more on the policy and the community's response. Max.
Hi, Ebony. I'm here outside of a private detention facility run by the company Southwest Key. This company houses migrant children who are in detention. Today, as you can see, we've got ribbons as part of a protest to show solidarity with the children who are being detained. We're also holding up signs asking them to honk in support of the idea of not having children be in detention. Today, the Trump administration announced a new rule that would expand indefinitely how long children and families could be held in detention. This would leave the Flores settlement agreement that was established in 1997, which limited the amount of time that children could stay in detention to 20 days. Now, this could be indefinitely for as long as their immigration case goes through the courts. Here's Department of Homeland Security Chief Kevin McAleeden explaining the rule change.
After nearly 2 years of work by the Department of Homeland Security and Health and Human Services professionals, consideration of over 100,000 comments from stakeholders and members of the public, and a comprehensive review, the Trump administration has established a new rule to respond to the realities of current immigration flows, a rule based in the principle that families should remain together during immigration proceedings. While the Flores settlement agreement is operationally outdated and does not respond to the current immigration crisis, it has many important aspects and principles, like the need for special protections for children and high standards for government facilities, that were adopted as defining features in this new rule.
These kind of facilities, as you see behind me, would be expanded greatly under the new policy. These facilities have come under fire for the conditions that they've put children in. Some have died in custody, others have become sick. Workers have been placed under extreme amounts of stress, dealing with limited resources and traumatized children. Joining me right now is Robert Holtzman. He's a volunteer with Migrant Child Watch. He helped organize the protest today. Robert, why did you feel the need to come out here and put ribbons and ask people to honk?
Well, this is just part of other residents from San Diego have been here before, and we wanted to be here to help people in El Cajon know that every day they drive by this facility and may not even know that inside there may be 50 or 60 young boys that, hey, they just got taken away from their folks and are in a strange country all by themselves. There's this tremendous trauma, for the kids and the staff. And we want people here to know it and be able to, we're responsible really for a place like this.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Robert. Max, live from El Cajon, Max Rivlin-Nadler, KPBS News.
Thanks, Max. The County Office of Emergency Services unveiled a new plan of action today. The goal to protect children if and when a wildfire erupts. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman is live with more on this heightened safety plan. Matt?
Yeah, Ebony, we're here at San Ysidro High School. Now, the county says this area is at an extremely high risk for wildfires, and we'll show you why. Just across the street here, lots of dry grass and shrubs, which the county says are very prone to starting wildfires. Earlier this month, there was actually a 500-acre fire that hit near the school. So what happens if a wildfire has hundreds of kids in its path? The county's releasing a new plan to protect the lives of students, teachers, and parents.
It's not a matter of if, but a matter of when.
County officials want schools to be prepared for the worst. A raging wildfire, what do teachers and staff do?
Are they going to do an emergency evacuation? Are they going to shelter in place? Are they going to do an early dismissal? Are they going to do an unplanned release?
The new plan outlines steps school leaders can take when they have to evacuate due to a wildfire.
How will transportation be secured to get the kids out of harm's way if an evacuation of the campus is necessary? What are the reunification procedures? If you do have to relocate to an alternative site, what are the procedures that staff should follow when parents come to pick up their children?
The wildfire protection plan will be modified for individual schools. Fire officials say parents should know what to do in the event of a fire emergency.
Find out what your school uses to communicate those important messages and make sure that you're tied into them as a parent so you know where to go. Rushing to the school simply complicates the emergency response side of things.
Yeah, guys, so fire officials say that the need for this plan came after devastating wildfires in recent years that forced evacuations of schools. They say that by following this blueprint, it'll help fire officials better evacuate those schools. And actually, the county has a map online. If you want to see if your kid's school is in a high-risk fire area, you can go to readysandiego.com. They have a map there where you can check all that out. At San Ysidro High, Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Thanks for that information. Thanks, Matt. Brazil's Amazon rainforest is burning, and scientists warn it could have devastating consequences. The fires are burning at the highest rate ever since the country began tracking them in 2013. There have been more than 72,000 fires in Brazil this year, with more than half in the Amazon region. The Amazon is often referred to as the planet's lungs, producing 20% of the oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere. It is considered vital in slowing down global warming and is home to millions of species, according to the World Wildlife Fund. It's roughly half the size of the U.S., making it the largest rainforest on the planet. With excessive heat warnings in place for parts of San Diego County, this hot weather will start to cool down. Meteorologist Mark Mancuso tells us when we can expect that cool down and more humidity.
Here's a look at our weather headlines. Our weather pattern remains tranquil, and we'll see our usual morning clouds giving way to some afternoon sun. Looks like the heat peaks today, and after today, temperatures will gradually cool off, especially in the interior sections. For tonight, we'll see a partly cloudy sky. Temperatures settling down into the mid-60s. Mountain Lagoon is down to 61 tonight. Borrego Springs, 76. Oceanside, 63. And as we take a look at the weather for Thursday, no big changes. More comfortable near the coast. It's hot in the interior. Monsoonal moisture, it's really hard to come by. Not a lot in the cards here. Taking a look at our temperatures, we'll soar to 109 in Borrego Springs. Mount Laguna's at 82. Campo's at 96. Oceanside coming in with a 78. And as we take a look at the weather for late week into the weekend here, we'll keep an eye on this moisture. It'll try to creep its way back up to into the picture here, but we're staying dry here and tranquil. Here's our forecast at the coast for the next 5 days. We'll see partly sunny skies. Temperatures in the afternoon hours climbing to the mid and upper 70s. Inland, we'll see plenty of sunshine, some clouds in the morning hours, but generally sunny. And you can see your temperatures cooling a little bit and then starting to warm up over the weekend. In the desert, it's hot. Forecast high Thursday, 109. Temperatures coming down a little bit as we take you into the weekend, and then we'll kind of bottom out and stop there at about 106. And as we take you to the mountains, well, a lot of sunshine to be had Thursday. just a smidgen cooler Friday, Saturday. Certainly looks nice. Generally tranquil weather expected here right through the weekends. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso. Back to you.
County health officials are warning of possible measles exposure at 3 separate locations. It involves a fully immunized person who came in contact with the county's first measles case. That 11-month-old contracted the virus earlier this month after visiting the Philippines. An investigation is now underway to see if the newly infected person exposed the public at the 85 Degree Cafe on Rosecrans Street on August 15th through 18th and the Minsong Shu on Convoy Street on August 15th. As well as the Ralphs on Alta Drive on August 16th. San Diego County confirms its first flu death of the season. Today, health officials reported the death was a 74-year-old man from Chula Vista. He died from influenza B complications, and he also had underlying medical conditions. The county tracks the flu year-round. Each season starts on July 1st and ends June 30th. While this is the first death since July, health officials have confirmed more than 100 cases throughout the county. Everyone over the age of 6 months old is urged to get the flu shot. The votes are in. Assemblyman Todd Gloria has received the endorsement of the county Democratic Party in his bid for San Diego mayor. KPBS reporter Andrew Bowen takes a look at what this means politically and financially for the candidates.
The vote Tuesday night was not close. 71% of the party's Central Committee members picked Gloria over his main rival in the race, City Councilwoman Barbara Bree. She received 14% of the vote. Gloria is emerging as the clear favorite. He already leads in fundraising and endorsements from high-profile elected officials, including Governor Gavin Newsom. The endorsement allows the party to spend money to help get Gloria elected. No major Republican or independent has entered the mayor's race. The primary is on March 3rd. The top 2 finishers in that race will compete in a runoff on November 3rd, 2020. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Federal law protects people serving in the Guard and Reserve from losing their job or being denied promotions. The government is supposed to be a model employer, but KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh says that isn't always the case.
Mark Coe spent 20 years as a special agent in the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration. Until he retired last year, Coast also spent 30 years in the Marines, most of that time in the reserves. He's in this Defense Department video shot at Camp Pendleton in 2011.
I'm Lieutenant Colonel Mark Coast. I'm the commanding officer of 5th Battalion, 14th Marines.
Coast's artillery brigade was practicing in the California desert.
When we come out for our annual training, we're able to exercise the medals that we need to on an artillery battalion that you just can't get done in the 2 to 3 days on a drill weekend.
The U.S. relied heavily on Guard and Reserves after 9/11. By 2011, Coast had already served 4 tours in Iraq as a Marine Reserve officer while on leave from the DEA. He's now part of a lawsuit with 15 other DEA agents from San Diego who allege that their supervisors discriminated against agents serving in the military.
Never in my wildest dreams did I or any of my colleagues assume that we would get the most grief coming from our office, meaning government agents. That was the most incredible thing that I experienced as a result of the wars.
Coast says he and other reservists were denied promotions at DEA. He describes another agent who was moved to an office hours away from his home. Coast says one of his supervisors came up to him in the mailroom after he had just come back from his first tour in Iraq.
He was asking me about my experience there, and I said, yeah, it was pretty hard fighting up to Baghdad, and I said I got wounded at one point. And he said, well, you know, if you hadn't stayed in the reserve, this wouldn't have happened, so you pretty much deserve everything you get.
The DEA won't comment on ongoing litigation. In the U.S. Justice Department, Patrick Boley heads the Office of the Special Counsel, which enforces the Federal Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act, or USERRA.
This law helps keep our military all volunteer by, giving people employment protections and protections against discrimination when they're trying to get a civilian job.
The law requires the federal government to be the model employer, but over the last decade, out of the more than 11,800 cases filed through the Department of Labor, about 17% were filed against the federal government. The worst offenders are the agencies most closely tied to the military. Civilians in the Department of Defense filed the most cases, followed by the Department of Veterans Affairs, the Postal Service, and Homeland Security, which has the Coast Guard and Border Patrol.
One could argue that it's because they employ a lot of veterans and service members, but of course, we also want those agencies to be doing their best not to violate the law.
Boulay says he believes in the vast reaches of the federal government. There are supervisors who just don't understand the law. Though one problem with USERRA is it's designed to get relief for individuals. Boulay says he can't force an entire agency to change its policies toward reservists. Brian Lawler is a retired Marine Reserve aviator and a San Diego lawyer who handles USERRA cases. He says in 2018, a federal circuit court ruled on the amount of paid leave federal reservists are allowed.
Every other week, an agency will say, we don't agree with that decision, which they can say, but I know how it's going to turn out in the end.
Lawler says half of his cases are federal workers.
We represent a gentleman who is a senior officer in the Army Reserve and a senior civilian employee working for the exact same command, and who is being denied benefits of his reserve service by the same command for whom he works as a civilian.
At the moment, the process is even slower. The Merit Systems Protection Board, which oversees appeals by federal workers, hasn't met in more than a year. The Trump administration was slow to offer appointments, and the Senate hasn't confirmed any new members. The board has a backlog of 2,300 cases waiting for its review. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
Disabled veterans now have one less financial problem to worry about: their student loans. President Trump signed an executive action that would forgive disabled veterans student debt. The president signed the order at the AMVETS conference in Kentucky today. It will help more than 20,000 disabled veterans and cancel an average of $30,000 in debt per person. Trump says Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos will assist in implementing the new policy. The latest recommendations for women and their doctors have been released when it comes to the BRCA gene. It's a mutation commonly linked to breast cancer. Mandy Gaither has more in tonight's Health Minute.
The U.S. Preventative Services Task Force has just come out with updated recommendations for BRCA screenings. According to a report published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, more women need to be assessed for the potentially deadly mutation of these genes, including women who are considered cancer-free following a previous battle with one of the cancers associated with the BRCA gene: breast, ovarian, tubal, or peritoneal. A previous report from 2013 only recommended women with a family history of these cancers to be screened for BRCA1 or BRCA2 mutations. The BRCA1 and BRCA2 genes are important in the fight against cancer. When working normally, they can suppress tumors, but if there's a mutation in those genes, it can actually raise a person's risk for breast, ovarian, and other cancers. The CDC says breast cancer is the most common cancer diagnosed. In 2016, approximately 245,000 new cases were diagnosed, along with about 20,000 cases of ovarian cancer. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, about 5 to 10% of breast cancer and 10 to 15% of ovarian cancer are hereditary. For today's Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Several local school districts got back to school today. That means a new routine for kids heading back to class. Here's more on how to make it as painless as possible.
Heading back to the classroom isn't always easy.
Making changes in your routine requires a very conscious effort, and realizing that it's going to take a few weeks of it being kind of difficult as you're getting into these new habits, but being very consistent is really the key to doing it.
Dr. Stephanie Walsh with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta says the first thing to focus on is your child's sleep schedule.
Regular sleep, consistent sleep is so important on multiple levels, as far as even just success in school, but even just regulating emotions along the day.
Summertime bedtimes tend to be later. To change that, start sending your child to bed 15 to 30 minutes earlier every few days leading up to the first day of school. But Walsh warns it could take up to 2 weeks to change your child's sleep pattern.
So if they're going to bed at midnight and you really want them in bed by 10, you have to think about how long that's going to take and then start that process ahead of time.
Breakfast is another important part of the back-to-school routine. Making sure your child eats each morning will help them focus throughout the day. While going back to school can be stressful, Walsh says patience will help make it painless as possible.
I'm William Brangham. Tonight on the NewsHour, the White House seeks to hold migrant families indefinitely, a move surely to be challenged in court. Coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
San Diego Underground Film Festival celebrates its 5th year and returns to the 10th Avenue Art Center for a showcase of work that deviates from the norm. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando has this preview.
The need to rebel is as essential a human quality as is the desire to conform. A showcase of artists who defy expectation, challenge the status quo, and just refuse to be pigeonholed can be found at this year's San Diego Underground Film Festival. The festival will host the world premieres of a pair of animated works, Gabriela Escobar's Lisbela and Johnny Phillips' The Final Exit of the Disciples of Essentia, the last film in her Wasteland series. Both filmmakers explore a female perspective in ways that experiment with both narrative form and visual style. A couple of the live-action world premieres include San Diego filmmaker Paulo Zuniga's Lacustra and Haiyan Choi's Origami Tutorial.
Origami Tutorial.
One of my favorites of the films I had a chance to screen was Bennifer. It looks like an old home movie and captures that awkwardness of family relationships.
Hello.
Jen. The festival will also host live performances that mix projection and film for a fun, interactive, and immersive experience. The San Diego Underground Film Festival runs Thursday through Sunday at the 10th Avenue Art Center, where you can expect to be challenged and amazed. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
And another new movie opening today aims for both suspense and laughs. David Daniel has a look at Ready or Not.
There's just one more thing, and then you are officially part of the family.
Samara Weaving's wedding night takes a bizarre turn in Ready or Not.
A game. What game? Hide and seek? Are we really going to play that?
Oh, yes, and her new in-laws are playing for keeps.
Sweetheart.
You shot the maid.
Does she look like she's wearing a giant white wedding dress?
It was a perfect marriage of thriller and comedy and horror, and the directors really pulled it off, and we had an amazing cast to be a part of it, and all the pieces fell into place.
It was a riot to do with these people. Andy McDowell, Samara Weaving, Mark O'Brien.
It's scary to think that everybody was perfectly cast because of the role I play. But I had a lot of fun playing this type of role because I've played so many sweet characters, and I'm not sweet.
She's in the study!
The originality of the script was a big draw for the directors and cast.
I mean, honestly, it's a dream come true because it truly is. It's like that's what we want when we go to movies, and we don't get that much anymore.
This is something you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know who the characters are, and you can't believe that they're definitely going to live at the end.
You're just another sacrifice.
In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
The crazy cat lady, an enduring entertainment stereotype, turns out not to be real. Sorry to disappoint you dog lovers, but the new study from UCLA shows owning lots of cats doesn't mean you're mad, sad, or anxious. Researchers analyzed 500 pet owners. They found feline owners are not more likely to suffer from depression or anxiety. This backs up a study from the University of College London that found no link between cat ownership and psychotic symptoms. And finally tonight, a heartwarming story. A young woman with Down syndrome has a dream of becoming a mail woman her entire life. Now, thanks to one post office, that wish became a reality. Natalie Clark has this story.
Yes, it's going to be a fun day.
A fun day guaranteed for Grace Flannery. After all, she's fulfilling a childhood dream.
You're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Grace is 21 years old. Ever since she was a little girl, she wanted to be a mail woman.
And I actually put them into bundles for each, kind of like each street. Perfect, perfect.
Today, the Postal Service delivered her dream.
It's my first day. I'm going to be a mail carrier for a day. This is my first day ever.
Her first day of work, alongside letter carrier Melissa Tilton, who walked Grace through her workday.
I love my job. I love my job to begin with. And then when I find out that, someone else wants to do it, and I'm like, yeah, let's do this. This would be great.
From putting the mail in order to loading up.
This one's for the same street.
Grace was ready to hit the streets of Westwood, handing out mail along the way. And the heat did not get in the way of Grace fulfilling her job responsibilities. She helped deliver mail to more than 30 houses, putting a lot of smiles on faces today.
Is that for us?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
too.
Grace said she was excited to meet everyone along the way wearing a professional uniform, including shorts, perfect for this hot summer day, handmade by her Grandma Penny.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.